To my knowledge, there are 3 stage races in Italy: Appenninica, Rally di Romagna, and also Rally di Sardinia. Are there any else? Let me know in the comments. Now, because Sardinia in 2025 was cancelled and it was postponed to upcoming years, Appenninica, while looks amazing, quite expensive, very fastly sold because there are limited amount of spots, Rally di Romagna remains. I talked to one Italian who lives near Dolomites and he said that Rally di Romagna, I haven't heard about this, and Emilia Romagna is not that region which I would highly recommend to try in Italy. I always appreciate everyone else's opinions because it just gives a better picture to understand what things are. Sometimes for the content creator like myself, having variety of videos is just beneficial, and that's exactly the reason how I finally ended up for the first time racing in Italy. This year I also appeared in Hero Dolomites and Mythos. You first need to make the first step, everything else follows. And that was exactly how I ended up in Rally di Romagna, which happens at the end of May and the beginning of June. It's kind of good time because the rains usually went away from that region already, so it could be quite hot. Actually, very hot it was this year. There still can be some rain. But about everything in this video, how I managed to reach, I can already say, my first DNF in stage race, which happened exactly in Rally di Romagna. I really don't know how much importance for you has logistics and traveling to some races. So if it's something you would want to hear about more, let me know in the comments. But in general, I flew to Milan Bergamo airport because I arrived a few days earlier than my wife. And I rented a car and went not to Salso Maggiore Terme, where race is going to happen, but we decided to stay in Fidenza, which is around 10 kilometers from the race start. The reason being, first, of course, it was a bit of late call, find accommodation which suits my needs, and the second was it's just very good excuse to make the warm-up before the race and the cool down afterwards, because it was more or less flat, maybe 50 meters of elevation gain. For cool down, it was just coasting down that home. It's kind of great thing when it's already warm in the mornings, means you don't need to have extra layer of clothes. If it helps to manage the budget as well, I don't mind riding those distances back and forth, because that's exactly the reason how I managed to do that much races, because I take things into account broadly. I did few Recon rides before the race, just like I expected. The region itself was very much alike where I live. Well, of course, we can't compare the sizes of the mountains. It's kind of a bit sketchy single tracks, but they're in the forest. And they are extremely nice. There was also a CO course included in the race course of stage 1 and stage 4. You can get basically everything there. I definitely didn't knew what our stages will include, so that was again a bit of unknown, but that's how it goes when you come to race in the unknown place for the first time. That's good for the content, for your own self as well, because you have to accommodate different riding conditions fast without knowing what to expect. I mean, I see only benefits out there. As I mentioned first that I had a car, I drove back to Bergamo to pick up my wife, and we decided that we won't need the car in the upcoming days, and we just arrived there by train. We've been living in Fidenza, but even if we choose to, we could go from Fidenza to Salso Maggiore in 7 minutes by train. From Bergamo you can appear in Fidenza or Salso Maggiore Terme in like few hours time frame. So that's good. And if we to talk about here about the savings of some sort, if you rent a car, you also have to pay fees on the highways. In the end of the day, it adds up. So unless you have a need to have a car, then it's definitely an option. But otherwise, if you are coming there just to ride the bike, you definitely don't need it. Once I came there, I was a bit skeptical about the markup of the race course, because every day had different color arrows, and they are like, if you go through the same section 3 times, you can see that there are 3 colored arrows, which points you to one or the other direction. And going through the same places was kind of a signature throughout the whole days, because the courses intersected a bit in the beginning and at the end, but the courses were quite unique, and mainly the ending of all days was pretty much the same. But other than that, that's one of the factors which helps me to decide whether I want to go to such race or not, is how unique the courses are. If you're going through the same places again and again, it's just not that interesting. At least that's my opinion on this thing. As the race courses changes from year to year, there's no point to go stage by stage to cover specifically what is there. But other than that, first stage is usually the shortest, then second and the third are the queen stages, fourth is a bit shorter but still quite technical, and final one is just to make sure that you won't forget it. I came to this race with 2.25 in front and 2.2 at the rear tires. Because I knew that the first stage will be relatively short, I decided that I will give it a shot, I will go those tires and I will see how it goes. And it actually went quite well. I shot like a bullet in the beginning. Well, I haven't been able to keep up with the front guys. Honestly, they're like that. In general, being 80 plus, compete with Italians on their own homeland, it's something which only the best can do. Now, with that being said, 2.2 on the rear was amazing. I definitely had advantage because of this. I managed to finish 6th in age group out of 28 and 14th overall out of 150 participants or so. During the stage, on very steep, hard climbs, I realized how much that wider tire gives you cushion in order to keep on going on especially loose terrain where your tire skips, and then you have to work excessively hard with your whole body in order to keep up on the bike. So I felt it from the first rows, and basically I knew that at home I will change those tires to something else and continue going with 2.4s, and I went with 2.4 Wolfpack speed in front and Pirelli CRC Pro Wall in 2.4 as well at the rear. So that's kind of my go-to setup if I know that it might get muddy. Well, I haven't knew that specifically, but because some sections go through the forest, I knew exactly that it's going to be in the terrain which might dig inside of it. So that was the reason why choosing the Wolfpack speed in front was a good idea in general. And remember, I mentioned that the conditions there can be either dry and hot or not necessarily dry, and last year in 2024 it was muddy like hell in the stage 2. I realized that thankfully it's not raining there this year, because there were some sections in the forest which were still wet. That I don't know, clay-like dirt was sticking like crazy. I would say that wet conditions, it would become nightmare. I also talked to organizers a bit, and they said that yeah, last few years there were occasions when it was raining a lot and that humid didn't help mud at all.
It's very clay-alike, and it just sticks everywhere. The bike becomes 3 kilograms heavier and all that stuff.
This is the problem we had the last year. It was very raining a lot the day before, and in second and third stages, a lot of mud, incredible.
But in general, yeah, I love it.
Now, I don't exactly remember whether stage 2 or stage 3 was queen stage, but I think based on the hardness that it was stage 2, the climbs were, I wouldn't say impossible, but they were very hard. It's very steep, very sharp, and it was the most explanatory when I shared the water with our Italian, who asked whether I can give him a sip. He just went out of liquids and he said that it's extremely hot. And trust me, it definitely was, even though the Garmin didn't show that specifically, but it was like a killer temperature there. Also, when you go on the meadow and the direct sun without any wind hits you straight into the face, causes a bit of issues, and we've been walking a lot. You know me, usually I try to be stubborn and I try to go as far as possible, but it was just impossible. Yet another self-explanatory statistic from this was the watts, which my weighted average of the day was 250. Yes, it was a bit affected by the walking, but at the same time I was just not performing the way I would want to and the way I could on this stage.
Was so hard to move half meter aside.
Where in comparison on the next few days my watts only went up, and that just reflection that the body has to accommodate to the heat, especially when you are coming not from that hot place like Lithuania, and on the other hand everyone is different, and personally I don't take heat that easily, even if I got used to that and acclimatized for that conditions. Something to keep in mind: if you not be friends with hot temperatures, be aware, come to such places a bit earlier, get used to it, then just reap the benefits of feeling better, more satisfied about your performance during the race. Because I felt terrible due to the heat on the stage 2, I took suggestion from Jake from Top Cycling, where he said that I should put my bladder of a hydro backpack into the freezer during the night, add few grains of salt there, and then in the morning just put it on and it will be good for a few hours. I can prove that this suggestion worked wonders in the beginning. It's a bit chilly for the bag, but it's not like you are getting cold, it's just comfortable chilly. A bit later you also get cold water to drink, and towards the end of the stage you are pretty much done with the water. Maybe there are still a bit left. Technically, let's say that 1 hour before the race I take the bladder, put it into the backpack, and for 2 hours and a half during the race it just remains cold. That means 3 hours and a half you have that time frame where the backpack chills you down. You also have liquids. Yes, you're carrying a bit more weight, but at the same time, because your backpack is chilly, you don't get the same feeling where you would normally get if you are going with backpack. You are sweating, you are creating more heat, anticipating it between your body and the backpack, and that creates a bit more issues than it gives benefits because of the liquid. It's hot, 25 plus degrees like it was there. The cool water worked wonders. And remember, I told that on stage 2 there were places which were just impossible to ride. On stage 3 we also crossed a few of those bits, and it was like, how in the world we were not able to ride this yesterday? That was that type of hard on stage 2 compared to stage 3. Okay, maybe the conditions of the path cleaned up a bit and we were able to ride it better, but nonetheless it was just magic unlocked. Was it because of a backpack? Was it because of better feeling? I don't know. This was even harder day through the sense of distance as well as elevation gain. Somehow it felt better. I saw the video somewhere online where people were going on the ridge, and I was hoping that that place will come there in this year's edition as well, but I think it wasn't. Nonetheless, there were some sections where we go on the tarmac, where in some cases you would say that why we're going on the tarmac, but here it was just great because you were able to cool down yourself a bit from all those meadows, forests, all that stuff, climbing really sharp and hard terrain. So I can't complain about the tarmac here, because it feels that the ones who create the course thought about this and just added those, not necessarily for you to rest, but more or less to cool yourself down, which for me as a Lithuanian skin guy, surprisingly not something which I'm complaining about, which I would normally do. Because my feeling from worst went to better, I had really high hopes for stage 4, because it also crossed the sections from stage 1, and I thought that now it's my time, I will have wider tires, better feeling on the bike. So with that in mind, I came back home, I had a lunch, I had a dinner. I started feeling not exactly right, but I thought that maybe it's fatigue accumulated, etc. So we went for a walk, and I was just moving one feet after another very slowly, and there was no evidence that something is bad, it just felt bad. And eventually in the evening I started to feel that most likely it's stomach issues. Spent quite a lot of time in the bathroom, vomiting and all that stuff. I can tell you one procedure which works for me, and I'm not saying that it will work for you, and I'm not giving you medical advice, but if while vomiting I see that there is still leftovers of any sort of meal, that means that my body is already poisoned, it's not able to digest it. So the way how to sort that out is to vomit everything, drink a lot of water, vomit again until the point where you no longer have any leftovers of the food which you consumed. This is kind of a hack which I do when I feel these type of symptoms, and I did all of that. It was around midnight, I guess, and I went to sleep. But unfortunately at 2 a.m. I repeated the same procedure. It was clear that something is just not working the way it should be. At 4 a.m. I woke up, I was just feeling terrible, and that was the point where I realized that all the hopes are shattered and I won't be able to start at the starting line on stage 4, which was a bit of unfortunate because I felt really good before that. I wanted to share a bit of clarity what happened, because some people wrote to me, hey, where's stage 4, etc. So that's why stage 4 was not available, and it was unfortunate. Towards the end of the day I spinned the legs a bit, just because last 3 days I was pushing full gas. Definitely it felt not very well, but then I made the decision that in the morning of stage 5 I will decide whether I should try or not. What's the worst thing which can happen? If I feel that I'm not able to perform, I can just skip and take the did not finish if I need to be. So I started at the start line. I started and it was going quite well. I'm not saying that I was at my best, but the watts were the biggest among all days. But yes, the distance was shorter, less elevation gain during the day. Towards the end of the stage I was not able to keep up with the guys I'd been in the group, and I understood that that's the best what I can do today. So that being said, I finished, but because on stage 4 I did not appear at the start, I guess the last person's time plus something was applied to my overall time. So if you ever watch at the protocols, it's not because I came that last, but because I haven't come at all. A few things which I haven't mentioned yet, it's starting gaze placement. There's no such. The amount of people is not huge, and in general everyone is quite friendly, but that also means that if you want to be in the first rows you have to come, I don't know, at least half an hour earlier or something like that. I didn't mind, I just came wherever I came to the gates. And then because there was most of the day's neutralization and it wasn't full gas like sometimes it is, if you'd want to, you had a chance. About the organizers, even though it's kind of small city, small organization, and it's not UCI race, but at the same time, maybe that's the reason why they keep it that cozy, because at least from the side it looks like whole team of organizers are like family, a huge family. Maybe it's Italian style, maybe it's particular to this race, I don't know, but that was the impression. About the participants in the race, I would say that the age average maybe is a bit higher than usual, and it kind of feels, looking from a side, that a lot of those people are some sort of friends or know each other from the past, etc. So that is that type of vibe in that race. And last but not least, for whom I would suggest to participate in such race, I think even though there are really hard climbs and it's 5 days, quite a lot, but that's very good starting point if you want to test yourself in stage races. It's going to be hard for sure, but it's not something which would kill you literally. And while there are technical places, there are no such harsh ones like you could find, for example, in Spain. That being said, if you are someone who's looking to start your stage racing career, I would say that this type of race is quite good one, because it does not have extremely long climbs. Yes, you go from around 200 meters up to 1k, I guess, in one day, but the climbs are manageable. Yes, they are steep in some sections, so I'm kind of contradicting myself there, but still, the overall conditions of the trails, etc. I wouldn't say beginners friendly, but someone who wants to get your feet into the stage racing is quite decent in general. And of course, because I got the NF, there's still unfinished business out there, because I haven't crossed the finish as a finisher. And even though I got the jersey, which everyone got in the starting package. Not finishers one, but just Milot. It's still not the same as finishing as a finisher. I'm not saying that I would do it again just because to get finisher's medal of some sort. Finished business out the remaining. Most likely I will have to return there just to get that tick. While it's already a bit too late, but I saw that those organizers do promo registrations in autumn, so that's probably the best time to register there because later price goes up. But they're also sharing some promo discounts due to holidays of some sort, maybe Black Friday. I don't know, but that's something to keep in mind, that you want to participate there. There might be some other options to register, not exactly at the given full price. So take a look at that, and if you have any questions about Rally di Romagna in Emilia-Romagna region, you are free to ask those questions either in the comments or through Buy Me a Coffee maybe. You can always find the most recent information, what I do and what are my plans in Instagram at TomTanCrafted, so I would highly recommend you to follow me there as well. It's been TomTanCrafted from Rally di Romagna. Until next.